What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Biblical Hitman. It's your host, Steven. I got the gentleman in the house once again, Allan Paul Roberts, everyone. He's an author, researcher. He's a businessman as well. Look at that suit and tie, everybody. It looks good. Listen, hey, if you're the first time coming across the channel or you're returning, you want to support the show, the best way to support this show on the video side of things is to head on over to YouTube, smash that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends, and drop a comment. Comment anything. That's the only place I could really get in direct communication with the audience. So feel free to drop your thoughts there. And plus, listen, come and hang out with us over on the audio side of things. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and Spotify. We're everywhere on podcast platforms. And, I just kindly ask, if you like the show, if you like what I have to say, drop a 5-star review. It helps the algorithms. It helps promote the show. It's the currency for what it is I kind of do with this whole thing. And also, hey, drop a follow and hit that notification bell. We drop episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. But with all that said, Allan, brother, thank you for coming back on. Part 2.
Oh, man, I'm pumped. I've been looking forward to this. 2 up 2 coming up right now.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we got a lot of good feedback, man, from the first episode.
Good.
That we did together, part 1, and we were going over your book. And for the people that aren't familiar with you and haven't seen the part 1 yet, if you just wouldn't mind, please give a little introduction about yourself and where they can support you the most.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I am what you would call a first-time author. My book, The Globalist Plan to Collapse Everything, this little beauty here, came out almost a year ago, last October, wrote it last summer. Just heads down, crazy. I'm almost didn't get my regular job done. Just blasting through this thing all summer long. Kind of obsessed with writing it, and so you can find out about the book at globalcollapsebook.com. You can get signed copies there. You can read a chapter for free. You can hear the intro for free because it's also available on audiobook. There's a sample of it there. And it's just my passion to put all the extra time I have besides my job into getting the word out about the 11 pillars of society that I'm convinced are under attack and in danger of falling. And so people need to be aware of each of these 11, have a plan in their personal life to kind of shore these things up. But I believe we also need a plan at the government level to for each one of these 11 collapse points so that they don't collapse. That's the whole point. Get awareness out there, push back, stop it from happening.
Yeah. On the website, I loved the artwork. It showed kind of like it was a dystopian vibe of like maybe the Capitol building or whatever. And then it looked like there was like the map of the United States kind of fractured, like it was a glass or something with like a chess game out in front.
Yeah.
I had to copy the idea for the thumbnail. I had to do it. It gave me such great inspiration. I was like, let's see what AI can do. And it whipped up a pretty cool, awesome thumbnail. But folks, go ahead and check that out. The part 1, shoot, my goodness, I'm flying through episodes here. I forget which number exactly it was, but it was a lot of fun, man. And we were going through the pillars. We were going through everything of pretty much your book. And it's so dense that we only got halfway pretty much through the different pillars in 2 hours.
Yeah, that was crazy. The conversation really just kept going and going. For anybody that wants to kind of follow along, if you go to globalcollapsebook.com, there's a tab called 11 Pillars, and that has a graphic of each pillar, so you can kind of follow along with us as we walk through these if you want to.
Yeah. And so for everyone that may have missed part 1, it's episode 84. So be sure to go ahead and check that out if you haven't, give it a listen or a watch. And one thing I want to say about your book, man, that I really enjoy about it that is different from pretty much anyone else that I've read books from. So it's like a adult pop-up book.
It is. That's a good way to put it.
It's got the QR codes. Whenever you mention something, it's got a QR code for all the references, the material, the research that you've done. And it's so cool because you scan the QR code, it takes you either to a video, it takes you to an article, or it takes you to some sort of source to back up what it is you're talking about.
And that's what I'm trying to get at is like immediate verification. Like you don't have to believe me, go listen to the video itself. And so this is just an example of a page in the book. You can see the QR code there. and then the discussion about going down the rabbit hole. So it's kind of it's paced so that it's kind of entertaining in the sense that you get graphics, you get to hop out to a video. You don't have to like muscle your way through this thing with just text. I mean, I have an MBA. I've done plenty of reading, but I have a stack of books, and you probably do too, that are 300, 500 pages. And it's like I never get to them, it seems like, because it's so intimidating, all that text. So my idea was just let's break this up and kind of keep it more exciting than just blasting through all this heavy text.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, it's brilliant actually. It's engaging. It makes it a fun read. It kind of gives you that break when you need to maybe stop reading for a moment and just, check out what it is you're really discussing or talking about through an illustration. Because a lot of it is videos too, right? Because
all right,
and I think that's the best way that at least I learned personally is through watching videos or illustrations, seeing the words
sure.
come into.
You remember it better.
Yeah.
I've read so many things and they're in and out, but you see a video, you have that visual memory of it as well, and you also have the emotional memory of how it impact the persuasiveness of it. Kind of clicks different in a video versus the printed text.
Yeah, yeah. And so, well, I mean, not sure where you want to start, but we did leave off on the medical system, which is the pillar that it is, um, that we left off to cover here.
Sure,
And so if we could just dive into that, and I just want to say this real quick, I work in the medical system. I've been working in the medical system for 10 years, almost 11 years now. It's about to be 11 years. I'm a paramedic. I'm on the streets. I'm a fireman. I do both. It's kind of like a dual certification here in Florida. It's different for other states, but we're mainly career department based here in Florida. And just working on the front lines, especially during the times of 2020, and especially with just the events that were going on, the propaganda, and a lot of the psychological, it was almost like psychological warfare for, I mean, we deal with sickness all the time. It's a part of our job. We deal with tuberculosis. It's, to me, it's like worse than what happened in 2020. But man, what an impactful event the medical system went through, as far as almost coming to a time of like re-educating ourselves in some way, shape, or form. I
yeah,
don't know if that's the right way to say it, but we started to understand or unplug of how the medical system really does work. And we started to reevaluate, oh wow, this is really how it works. And it's kind of a system based off of multiple other systems, which the food industry is one of those systems and all this kind of
sure.
stuff. They all work together, right? So
Yeah,
take it away.
it's interconnected. And if we look back to how our parents and their parents viewed, let's say, doctors, for example, doctors were like one level below God at one time. So the doctor knows everything, whatever the doctor says. Doctor's orders. Um, but I think what happened is during the 2020 to 2022 time period, let's say, I think our faith in the whole system was shaken to the core. We saw things that we couldn't explain, and I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. But I think we all know what I'm talking about. We have friends that died suddenly. We're seeing turbo cancers. We're seeing what appears to be a huge conflict of interest in the medical industry. Let's just put it that way. Uh, and including government, even, the government level of coercion to take certain actions during that time period. Federal government, state government. Think about people who lost their jobs or who lost their jobs or who were afraid of losing their jobs if they didn't toe the line on what the protocol was. If they pushed back and said, no, I don't want to do that thing the government's asking me to do here. All the businesses that were shut down that went out of business, because of because of all the shutdowns and people afraid to go out. Restaurants. I mean, you probably look around. I mean, Florida was you're lucky. I mean, was better by far than most states. I mean, they came out of it quickly. But I'm just trying to say that this thing really centers more on the medical industry, that whole experience, than anything else. I think. Uh, there's a new hesitancy these days to go along with the protocol. If you have a child that was born, what schedule are you going to put them on for getting their shots, for example? Are you going to get all 50 shots by the time they're 18, or are you going to hold back and really try to dial it back or space them out? People are starting to think for themselves, but the medical industry has gone from a time. I'm old enough to have a vague memory of doctors making house calls. We've gone from doctors having the time to spend with you to make a house call to in and out in 15 minutes and grab your prescription on the way out the door. See you later. Bye. and, and it's become like a machine. And, the local doctor's offices are now owned by the hospital system in many cases. It's just turned into this big conglomerate of top-down power, which is, I might have said it last time, but this is the common theme in almost every globalist effort, is to roll everything up so all the power can be forced from the top down, that you make the decision for the people at the highest level possible so that nobody gets to opt out. And that's kind of what we saw in the 2020 crisis. It was very hard to opt out because we were being forced to do things a certain way, to take a certain position. And that's really what's happened to our medical system. It's no longer decentralized and independent. It's become a top-down thing where you better toe the line, or if you're a doctor, you may lose your license, or you may not get the job, or you, as a student, you may not even be able to enroll in school if you don't take the prescribed thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I
Yeah,
think it's going into a whole nother evolution, man. I think now that in the medical industry, we're going to start to see AI being incorporated into
yeah.
everything. And I really think that, uh, you know, I- I'll think I'll have my job because I don't think robots or AI can put fires out yet.
Yeah.
but but I do think that artificial intelligence is going to take over the medical system at some point. I was watching a video of a physicist talking earlier today, talking about quantum computing and the fact that once AI is able to merge with quantum computing, see you later. I mean, there's going to
Yeah.
be that is where I think a lot of the jobs are going to get taken out or consumed by this new just this beast system that I feel is just building up one block at a time. But I think that the artificial intelligence is going to take over the medical system. I
Oh,
think
I
it's
think
going to
so
be your
too.
doctor.
And if you think about it, the doctors probably without knowing this have been maneuvered into this thing, because what it's become is there is a standard protocol for everything. There's a standard of care. So basically, feed those symptoms into, a program, and it's going to spit out the standard of care. There's not the finessing that it used to be, where doctors, would prescribe things based on their knowledge and maybe things they've seen work. Now it's like you got to follow the protocol. So what's the protocol? It's all just like a grid of information. Here's your symptoms. Here's the pharmaceutical item you're going to take to solve that problem. And that's it.
Mhm.
So once it becomes like that, what do you need a doctor for? There's no subjective, there's no room for anything subjective or nuanced. It's just, very locked in.
Yeah.
So you really don't need a person to make those decisions.
Yeah, and this is how clever the devil is, folks. Is like he doesn't work based off of time, which means like how I what I mean by that is when we want to do something, we kind of want to do it in a timely manner. We want to do it quick. We want to do it fast. And especially with technology today, we really like to do things fast. I mean, how annoyed do people get when maybe the internet is lagging or
Like
they're
yesterday.
yeah, right?
It
I
was,
mean, I had to reschedule multiple shows because of this
yeah,
internet issue with the cloud and all this stuff. I
yeah.
mean, the interesting point is that the devil don't work off of time. So I think what he's done is he's built this infrastructure of how he wants things set. And one of those things is being, the pharmaceutical industry and, how the medical system is ran with the hierarchy it's ran through, the chain of command, and all that kind of stuff. So that when AI does come and take it over, people won't question why the robots now are treating us and telling us what to take. But now they'll come into this system and go, this is just how things are. This is how the world is.
And
Everyone's
at
kind
the
of
world,
preconditioned.
speaking of the world, at the World Health Organization level, and Trump got us out of that. But for the countries who are still locked into the World Health Organization, if there's another crisis, call it whatever it is, some other medical, um, emergency, worldwide emergency, these countries have signed on to agree to abide by whatever the WHO says is the protocol with no opt out. They are locked in. And now the US got out of that trap. But think about that. We talk about top down control. They declare a pandemic, they declare what must be done. If they declare what must be shut down, it's kind of like a rerun of 2020, but at a global level with global control. That's what they're that's what these countries are signing up for. That's what Biden signed us up for. But Trump got us out of it. So, I mean, that top-down control to me is the scariest aspect of this because bodily autonomy, right? The right to make decisions for your own body, that's really being threatened in a lot of countries right now.
Yeah, and what made me, or what I came to realize, especially working as a medic, I started investigating kind of things that happened before this event happened. Because you have to
Okay.
understand, I'm at the dinner table. My buddy, he's kind of a conspiracy guy. I would say he's like a conspiracy realist, right? Like there are
Okay.
some people that are in a different spectrum when it comes to that term. But we're looking at each other, and I'm showing him on Facebook, and I'm like, "Hey, take a look at this. Look at all the quarantine camps going up over in the east." And he looked at it for half a second. He looked at me and he goes, "This is another 9/11 event." And he wasn't wrong. So when we started having those kinds of conversations in October of 2019, this was before March of 2020 when things got established to be, a global wide event. Me and him, we started kind of researching, okay, what happened before this broke out? Is there anything that, because we know that things are ran through these big systems, World Economic Forum, WHO, all these kinds of they're
Sure.
funded they're funded to run scenario based insight reports. And one of these insight reports was not only Event 201, which was taking place before the outbreak, but
Yeah,
also
2019.
yeah, exactly, right? And then, but you had in 2010, you had Operation Lockstep, which was a Rockefeller-funded insight report that basically kind of mimicked what we saw taking place in those times. I mean, what are your thoughts with kind of that?
Oh, I think there's abundant evidence for that. They make it look like these things just happen organically, but they are planned with a lot of money and power and detail behind the plan. You mentioned Event 201 that's mentioned in the book, and there's a QR code that'll take you right to a video where you can see like a 15-minute version of the whole Event 201 scenario with actors and everything. Um, you would swear it was done after 2020 when the whole pandemic hit because it mimics the reaction people are going to have. It mimics the newscasts. It mimics the line of thinking that's coming out, through the media. I mean, it was all pre-planned and it went off very close to that video again that you can see. But they talk about uh, Klaus Schwab talks about the cyber crime and the system coming down. I forget what the name of that one
Cyber
was.
Polygon.
Cyber Polygon, yeah. So he talks about the terrifying event that'll make uh, ho- look like a walk in the park.
Yeah, a
That
minor
it'll be
disturbance.
yeah, like a minor disturbance. Yeah. So I mean,
So
yeah,
cryptic.
they do plan these things out. And it's not just those. You can go back to the 1970s where they talk about population reduction, the problem of population, I mean, Ted Turner just not that long ago came out and said, the world population ought to be no more than 2 billion. So about, 75% reduction somehow. But I mean, these a lot of these globalists, they talk about things in advance, and the problem is they have a lot of money and a lot of power, and they work together to accomplish their shared goals. So when you see people like Bill Gates talk about in the same sentence, um, uh, when he talks about doing a good job with and some other things, maybe we can reduce the population by 10 to 15%. That's not just some random thing. This is a globalist with a ton of power and influence to make a lot of things happen. And so, I guess my caution would be take them seriously. Don't blow it off like we're tempted to do for our normalcy bias. We hear something, it's like, oh, that's crazy. I don't know what he meant there. No, stop and take the time to think about it, and then correlate it with other things that have been said. Now, dig. That's what we've got to learn to do, is dig and not just rely on the mainstream media for our news,
Right.
because we're not getting a tenth of it.
Well, there's so much of this is layered. It's just layers on layers on layers. You got to peel
Yeah.
your way all the way to the core with some of this stuff. And then it's a whole nother onion. But
That's for sure.
you know what I'm saying? Just with the whole World Economic Forum, and I haven't really kept my eyes on them ever since. I would say just a few years ago. Klaus Schwab, I believe he kind of resigned from his position, and I should be paying attention to it more. But one thing, especially around that time where we were kind of kept indoors, was there was a gentleman, his name's called Sadhguru Jagi Vazwedev. And I probably butchered every single syllable
sure.
of that name. Well, he's a very famous yogi mystic. He's Hindu. He's this guy who you've probably seen him. He came out of the World Economic Forum meeting at one point, which he was on the panel for one discussion. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had like this really cryptic saying where he was like, basically, basically the energy that is around us, which is his God, right? His God is the God of the forces. And he says that, we should have less people
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
many of them
looking
say that.
directly into the camera. And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
immediately thought of Georgia Guidestone's The First Commandment of the Georgia
Yeah.
Guidestones.
Not to exceed 500 million, the world population. Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. But they do. They tell you these things. They put these things in front of you. I think it has. I mean, we've heard the obvious reasoning of the karmic law. We're dealing with occultists, so this is kind of how they think about things. The truth is in front of you, so if you
Yeah.
consent to it, it's your fault. All this kind of stuff.
Here's the thing, and I just, started thinking about this recently. So the globalists, basically don't believe in God. And so they see everything as a zero-sum game. In other words, if the population takes more of the resources, that's less for them. All right. So yeah, they steal the money, they steal the power, they lock everything up, and they're afraid of everyone else, the useless eaters. Um, but somebody who believes in God believes that there is a plan for us. I mean, he said, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. All right. So think about all the stolen money, all the money that is at I'll say the top 0.1% of the people that kind of rule the world. The 21 trillion that's missing from the U.S. Defense Department budget that they can't account for, that Catherine Austin Fitts says has all been channeled into underground cities, about 200 of them in the U.S., she claims. He's no lightweight, former, HUD, way up in housing and urban development, I think under Bush. I mean, yeah, no intellectual lightweight. But my point is, for a believer, think about if that money was used the right way to create irrigation, to create desalinization plants where you could take ocean water and turn it into fresh water. Think of the highway systems, how people, instead of just living on the coast, could be living on the interior of the country and doing very well with high-speed rail, with all kinds of things. If we were actually sharing the resources the way God intended, this earth could probably hold hundreds and hundreds of billions of people, you know, not, not 8 billion people, so it's because we misuse the resources. And so they get this fear that, oh my God, we got to lower the population. We got to work on lowering the fertility rate, and so we're in this crisis where we're aging. The entire Western world is aging, and there's not the resources to support people in retirement in the long run if this doesn't change. I mean, Elon Musk was right. He said we need to increase the population. We need to have more children, not less. But the globalists have kind of trapped everybody into this zero-sum game mindset where people really think that we need population reduction. I mean, they're going along with the lie. It really is a lie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and this always kind of brings me back to the hive mind concept, because when we're talking about population at some kind of, when we break that down, we really kind of only can we can only process what we imagine of it, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
what I try to kind of illustrate for people is what I think they believe in is a hive mind system, and they're pushing towards this hive mind system. So when you think of the queen bee, right, you think of the queen that dictates, number one, how much larva and how much production of the bees is it she intends to create. It's limited always because she wants to have that authoritarian rule over all of them, and she doesn't want too many of them that she can't control. So, because she also functions with pheromones and frequencies and all this other kinds of stuff to
Mhm.
emit these vibrations to the worker bees so that they can efficiently do work for her. And it's all based off creation. It's all based off intelligent design. But what
Sure.
I'm saying is I think these globalists kind of hover to this idea, and they go and they almost want to put it into reality for themselves. They want to be the queen. They want to be the one that runs everything. They want the Elysium to themselves, and they want the worker bees, the useless eaters, to go ahead and be uh, basically the controlled, you know,
Yeah,
just
it's hard
no
to believe
nobody,
that they don't see us as human, they see us as cattle. They see us like we see cattle, you
They want
know?
us to mine the resources for them,
Yeah,
if that makes any sense, you know? I swear, have you seen the movie Elysium with Matt Damon?
I love that movie. Yeah,
Okay, so it's
probably
the
10
same
times
thing,
by
right?
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so there's Elysium that's out there, but you have to understand the people on Earth who are basically, I mean, they're hurting to just survive, to feed themselves enough that day. They're going to work, they're controlled by robots, all this kind of stuff. But really they're being, they're manipulated to resource, all of the elements and products on Earth to give to Elysium so that they can live forever and they can have their med beds and all this kind of stuff up
Yeah,
there.
they call it neo-feudalism, as a return to, like, a feudalist type society where, you have the kings and you have the serfs, and, really nothing in between. I think that's where they really wanna take it. Like I said, it's all about top-down control,
Right.
centralized.
Right.
Yep.
And here's another thing too when it comes to population that just rang a bell is I've been really studying Mystery Babylon. I've been studying kind of like what are some of the characteristics of Satan, the divine feminine, and what is this idea of Mystery Babylon. But when you think of it, there's two things. There's the idea that this Mystery Babylon and the Antichrist are going to unite, but then there's another thing that comes with that, and it's called balance. And so you have these two characteristics that revolve around the nature of Satan, and balance is being one of those. And I think that that's another thing that plays into this idea pertaining to population. It is this balance, right? It's almost like when you watch the Avengers movie, okay, and why Thanos had to just get all the stones and snap his fingers because he needed to bring balance to the universe.
Yeah,
It's the
their
same
their
kind of
concept
concept.
of balance, not true balance.
Right,
Mm,
right, right.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, their desire for control. But again, I think it's based on fear ultimately. They don't believe in God.
Right.
So, they have the fear that if they don't control it and control all of us useless eaters, their little prizes, they're not going to have it. Their world, the way they see it.
Yeah.
is going to be gone. But yet at the same time, they do these confusing things like, they're killing the air that we breathe with the chemtrails. They're killing the food that we eat with all these, additives that they allow in there, and with the shots they're giving the cattle and everything that basically make food less and less healthy. And you would think it would affect them too. I don't know quite how they see they're going to get out of this unless they think they're going to be in their underground bunkers for a couple years while the rest of us perish or something. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
bizarre. Like if you care so much about the world and you're worried about us, then why are you polluting the heck out of the world for all of us, including you? It's just
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll eat our bugs, right? And we'll shut up. And
That's
we'll
it.
just,
That's what they want.
I mean, remember, I forget what year it was, maybe it was 2023, 2022, but we saw how stressed it seemed to be for the food industry and the food system, that infrastructure, that pillar,
Yeah.
not only for our country, but also worldwide, but specifically in our country, we were seeing farms kind of burning up. We were seeing, industry plants just catching fire. We were seeing, we were seeing products, and the amount of products were going down, right? So prices were going up. It was in a really stressful time. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember all that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's collapse number 9, food supply in the book, and this gets back to the globalist principle, from Henry Kissinger when he said, "Who controls the food supply controls the people." And tyrants have used food supply, food shortages to control people for centuries. But I think that's what we were seeing, and yeah, on one hand, they've been able to get control of some of the food supply now in a good way, where egg prices have come down because the number of chickens being taken offline through, uh, you know, these false tests that they were using and declaring them to have some kind of virus that actually didn't exist and then culling entire herds. That's been reversed. All right. So that bounced back. Egg prices came down by 50%. However, in a lot of other ways, it seems like our food supply is still having major issues. Not like it was, um, but still some major issues. But going back to the prior 4 years, some of the things we saw happening in the food supply were just absolutely unbelievable. So there's a section of the book that just talks about fires at food plants, and in 2021 there was a total of 10 events, major fires at food plants, less than one a month. For the first half of 2022, there were 90 events, or an average of 15 per month. So there's a graphic in the book that shows you like a tower, the two towers. You got this little flat thing at like 10 for the whole year, and then you have 15 a month. It's like a skyscraper compared to a little building. When you see it graphically, that's the switch, and it was intentional. And we take you then through just a series of things just in March alone. All the chickens that were being destroyed, turkeys, between fires and also between the tests that they were giving them and then calling the herd. So, I mean, and these were, I did a, uh, I researched this, and just in March alone, just quickly, March 4th, 294,000 chickens, Stoddard, Missouri, destroyed. Same day, 644,000 at an egg farm in Cecil, Maryland. 4 days later, 243,000, Newcastle, Delaware. The 10th, 663,000. The 10th again, 915,000. The 14th, 2.7 million chickens destroyed at one egg farm in Jefferson, Wisconsin. And then the 17th, 5.3 million destroyed at an egg farm in Buena Vista, Iowa. And it goes on and on. So, I mean, this is
Jeez.
like totally intentional. You know what I mean? You can't make this stuff up. It's just off the charts nuts.
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern to some of those things. And also, I mean, there was a lot of cattle that all of a sudden just somewhat dropped dead. I can't remember
That was in
exactly the
Kansas, I
reasoning.
think. Yeah, all in one day.
Yeah, it wasn't like a tornado came through and
No.
whooped them up. you know?
I don't know what they did to them, but that seems to me like that had to be some type of weapons test or systems test. I mean, you
Good
probably saw
idea.
the pictures, right? They're just all they're dead, just like in one day.
Yeah,
And then
I
they'd
know.
say, "Oh, it was heat." No, it wasn't. The farmers said, "We've had that kind of heat plenty of times. That doesn't happen to cattle like that."
Right.
If it would be heat, what would happen is the sickest ones would die, and maybe the youngest, the real young ones or something. There'd be a pattern to it, but this just wiped out the whole
Well,
herd,
I've
you know?
got cows too, man, on my property, and when it gets really hot, they're pretty smart animals. They go into the shade. They go and they find tree cover. They go and
Mhm.
they plus, I mean, what they do to also kind of stay cool, and this is pretty disgusting, but they kind of spit on themselves.
I didn't
And
know
they
that.
kinda like whip their spit behind them, and it covers them. It's to try and get off bugs, but it's also to keep them cool,
Oh, wow.
which is interesting, and I was like, "Oh, man." I mean, that's what I've been told. I'm not a cow guy. I lease them on my
But it makes
property,
sense
okay?
because like, if the breeze is blowing and you get wet, it feels you feel cold, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it would cool you down to be wet if the wind's moving a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and what also makes me what is just a shock, which everyone should kind of be aware of this or know this by now, but Bill Gates is buying up farmland. We've got a lot of, Chinese, private industries that are buying up land.
Yeah.
It seems to be like we're not so national. I don't know how to explain it, but things are being taken over by very rich people, and for
Yes.
what reason, I can only, have my own conclusions. But what are your thoughts with all that?
Well, no, exactly. I mean, Bill Gates, these people work together. So this isn't randomness. What you're detecting is the international collusion, really, of these people and how they work together. It's not coincidence. And if you drill deeper, you'll find it. So, Bill Gates is the largest funder of the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is connected to all kinds of things that Bill Gates does. Bill Gates is also the same guy in Florida, right? Am I right about this? I heard about that they have
The
mosquitoes
mosquitoes? Yeah, it's wild.
that have been altered
I hate it,
to give
Alan.
you. Is it to give you a dose of the? Is that
I
what
I
that
I
is
don't
for?
know, but I hate it when I get bit by a mosquito in
Oh
Florida. I don't
yeah,
know what's going on, man. I'm like,
exactly.
"No, no, no,
But yeah,
no."
I mean, in the book, goes into that Bill Gates has become the largest owner of farmland in America, with holdings spanning 18 states and tens of thousands of acres. So this is the guy that founded Microsoft. He's the main financier of the World Health Organization. And, like I said, it's that same World Health Organization that's trying to get worldwide unilateral authority to declare a pandemic and everything that has to be done, which is right in line with what he's trying to do, talking about population control and, supporting, pharma in certain ways. But, he purchased, I heard, 70 million acres. This is in the book, of Western forests, and he wants to mow down all the trees and bury them in the name of climate. This is so bizarre. He's actually saying that the trees are harmful to global warming. I mean, the trees are putting out oxygen and drawing in CO2. We learned this in grade school. The trees breathe in CO2, breathe out oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out CO2. We work together, the trees and every mammal, it's a system, but he thinks he knows better. I mean, it's like this God complex these people seem to have
Oh, yeah.
that, yeah. And then they, with the chemtrails, the excuse is we need to, we need to dim the sun. We need to reflect the sun back up into the atmosphere. And I don't know if you've noticed in Florida, I think in Florida, didn't they pass laws against chemtrails?
Yes, which is very interesting because 'cause I've had nice blue skies, especially since the government
Exactly.
shut
It
down.
changes the color of the sky, doesn't it? It's like brighter.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh, yeah.
seeing that here in Pennsylvania. I mean, we still have them, but I think they're running out of money to do that since they shut down
I'll
some of
tell
the
you, there's a
sport.
difference with states. Now, I've driven from Florida all the way up to almost Tennessee, and I've had to cut through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina to kinda get there.
Yeah.
When I was coming through South Carolina,
Hmm.
I remember this. I was cutting through South Carolina, and I literally I woke my wife up. She was kinda sleeping on it was a, 15, 16-hour car ride back home. I'm
Sure.
waking my wife up, and I'm like, "Hey, oh my gosh, like, look. We looked at the sky and it was nothing more than a grid system in the sky. It
Oh,
was a
the
grid.
chemtrail
It
grid.
was the
Yeah,
first time. Now, I've
yeah,
seen chemtrails, right? Like I can
sure.
recognize a contrail versus a chemtrail. It's very simple. It's very easy to do. But when I saw that, brother, I was like, this is on a whole nother level. And
Oh, yeah.
oh my goodness, this is wicked. I was like, it's literally a grid system. It looked like grid paper was in the sky.
Yeah, that's at its worst. I mean, but even if it's not, even if you just see some straight lines like we see here in Pennsylvania, on days where we see that, the sun, the whole atmosphere seems to have a different color. And in on the website geoengineeringwatch.org, which I quote in the book, they have an hour and a half documentary called "The Dimming," and it is talks about all the documented effects of the chemtrails, including what's in the chemtrails, but also the fact that it really does dim the atmosphere because that's their stated goal, to reflect sunlight back up into the atmosphere and away from the earth. And it really has a dimming effect. I mean, I can see the difference now. A day with no chemtrails, everything's brighter. A day with chemtrails, it's like somebody dimmed the lights. It's really, and it messes with your mind because we like sunshine. Sunshine is like brings happiness to most people. So if
Mhm.
you're turning down the lights, it kind of affects
What's
your
it called?
mood
It
and
kind of may
everything
mess
else.
with like your circadian rhythm. I think that's the word
Yeah.
for it. But
Mhm.
also, too, is I think it's also reducing the amount of vitamin D that we need throughout the day. I think
Sure.
and it's also reducing the amount of sunlight for photosynthesis for the
Exactly.
process of plants and also for soil and for the thriving of nutrients in the ground. Another thing that's kind of wild is when you hear about what it is they may be putting in the air, there's different kinds of, compounds that they may put in there. But the ones that I'm kind of familiar with are aluminum and barium. And when you take aluminum and barium, you take the periodic table and you actually look at what the symbols are, what the acronyms are of aluminum and barium, and it's Ba for barium and it's Al for aluminum. So when I see that, I see the ancient god Baal.
That's
Right?
right.
And so
Yeah.
Baal was a weather god. Baal was the god of the weather. And this is one of the
Amazing.
reasons why a lot of people were sacrificing their young ones and their offsprings
Yeah.
to this god, not only to get some sort of outcome and benefit and blessing for doing so, but it was also to be able to give back to the gods so that the gods will give back to you. And one of those things that it gave back was rain, and it would rain on the ground. And it would give you crops and it would give you food. And this is what the kind of people started to think that they needed to do to keep the god happy. But when I saw that, I started. I just found this very interesting because I was like, okay, let me go and find maybe something, the source of when the first chemtrail was put out in the world or whatever. But it took me down a rabbit hole. I found this operation called Operation Popeye. And Operation Popeye was this geoengineering project that we did in Vietnam to control and manipulate their weather,
Mhm.
to blend in, aircrafts with the radar detection and all this kind of stuff. But we also used it to also, affect the people there as well.
Sure.
And so I said, "Okay, what year was that done?" So I was like, "Okay, so the year was 1972, 1973, Operation Popeye." So I said, "What happened in the United States at the same time?" Right? So I said, "What was the one of the biggest events in 1972, 73 in the United States?" And actually, the one of the biggest events, if not the leading event politically, was Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
So if you put Roe v. Wade with the god of weather,
Mhm.
it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I
Why
think that
both
was
of those things.
that was when prayer was removed from the schools too, if I remember correctly, right around
Oh,
that same time.
wow. They
Yeah.
got a lot done.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think the chemtrails actually go back to at least the 50s. They were working on that back then. But yeah, if you go to geoengineeringwatch.org and just watch that documentary called "The Dimming," it's incredibly interesting, and you won't be able to deny it. I mean, they have telescopes with cameras on these planes when they turn these things on and off. Yeah, and they were doing it way back. So yeah, weather
Wow.
manipulation has been a thing, and chemtrails are used as also as part of weather manipulation because all these metals that are in the chemtrails, they can then use the HARP technology to actually steer the weather. I know people don't believe that, But I think if you watch that documentary, that leaves no doubt in your mind.
If
And it's not
anything,
just the U.S., it's all over the world. It's countries all over the world.
yeah, and if anything, the capability is there for
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of technology. It
No,
doesn't have to
it's
be an
totally there.
official story, everyone. Why
Yeah, I
would it
mean,
be an official story?
that HARP technology is microwave technology, and I think it's like 1,000,000 watts or something that they beam up into the stratosphere. So they heat up the stratosphere, the ionosphere, whatever, and then with the heat, they're able to push the weather. And all, I mean, you've seen in Dubai when which is a desert, and how they've had these floods in Dubai because they were messing with the weather control, and you get like 3 feet of water in Dubai or something.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
been nuts, 'cause they're
Well,
just playing with their weather toys.
yeah, how about, when I think it was it was last year we got hit with some tremendous hurricanes, and we also, and it wasn't just us, but North Carolina got hit as well. It took out a lot of villages and towns and things like that. And there was a lot, also there were some dams that, failed and things like that, which are questionable. But
Mhm.
it also, I always go, I'm a patent guy, so I go and I look up some patents and see if
Oh,
they're
nice.
there.
Yeah.
But there's patents to manipulate hurricanes.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
patents to manipulate tornadoes. What did we see in Florida? We saw hurricanes and tornadoes. Now I've lived here for my whole life, and I'm 34 years old, but I've never seen a tornado. The tornado thing is kind of like it's like a phenomenon. It's like
Sure.
it's not really, a reoccurring thing, and there's no evidence behind it. I mean, but we were getting actually a lot of tornadoes in the Everglades last year, which was
Crazy.
something that was kind of crazy. So who knows
Well, I've
what happened
noticed
with
the
all
the
that?
really bad storms in Florida and in Texas over the past 5 years. There were a couple of them, at least one in Florida, at least one in Texas. Do you remember where the weather just came and hovered and churned and just kept dumping rain in one area? Like it didn't move through Florida, it was parked for at least a day. And the same thing happened in Texas a few years ago where we had those terrible storms where it looked like it was being manipulated because it wasn't acting naturally. It just hovering and churning and just, releasing so much water. I mean, it really looks like somebody's playing with like a joystick.
Seriously,
Let's
that's
just park it right here,
hilarious.
cause as much damage as we can.
Oh,
You know?
golly. Yeah, the guy, like, just kinda left for a minute. He just left the computer on standby. He
Yeah.
went on a break or something.
Yeah, it's
But
craziness.
and I think not only is the land it seems like they're conquering land, they're conquering the air. I think what they're doing is they're maybe coming after all the elements of what make up our material world. But, I also think that there's something behind making the food, just not nutritional anymore.
Yeah.
The nutrition is not there. If
Mhm.
anything, folks, go shop on the outside of your supermarket. Don't
Absolutely.
shop in the aisles. Shop on the outside. That's probably the best place you can shop. Everything on the inside, where the aisles are, I mean, man,
It's
it's
awful.
all processed, it's mass produced. And I think that that's the best way to control the people is to take over those companies and to make them mass produce so that 3, 4, maybe 2 ultimate companies run and control and operate and own everything, which we know,
That's it. That's what we're
BlackRock.
talking about, how they
Yeah.
get control. They just roll it up so that very few moving parts, and then they have ownership, controlling interest. The same companies have controlling interest in most of that. So that's
Yeah.
how they get so much control. But I mean, on the good side, on the happy side here, RFK Jr. is pushing back on some of this stuff on the ingredients. I mean, there's ingredients that they don't even have to list in food because the way the laws were written decades ago, there's just certain ingredients that like don't count, and they don't have to put them in there. And so he's trying to turn that around. And it's you've seen the red dye and the different dyes they're taking off the market. I mean, he's trying to get things done, and he has gotten some things done more than I've seen in any other administration. But that with these lawyers on the other side and these judges, they try to block things wherever they can. But a lot of good is in motion, on the food supply side, or in at least the quality of food in the U.S. But this is a condition that's common throughout the Western world in one way or another. So, the book gets into the riots in Brussels, Belgium, the farmer riots, where they were going through the streets with tractors spraying manure on the government buildings because they were so PO'd at what the government was doing by shutting down their farms. I mean, thousands and thousands of farms being forced offline by the government in Europe, and all in the name of climate change. The farms are emitting greenhouse gases, so they got to, John Kerry's actually quoted as saying something like, "We have to reduce the number of farms, or people are going to starve." It's like, what? Yeah,
Oh
yeah, this
man,
is craziness.
isn't he part of Skull and Bones?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting fella there. I wouldn't trust anything. I wouldn't trust him with my life.
yeah. Neither would I.
I think too. When I went to the Bahamas um, for my honeymoon, it was the first time I was out of the country in a long time, and I noticed things were different immediately with food. There is just different than where I came from, not too far. I mean, the state is right
Mhm.
there, but I grabbed a soda out of the refrigerator of the Sandals Resort that I was in. Beautiful place, and I'm a ingredients guy. I whenever I grab something, I just flip it around and I just want to
Sure.
know what from the biggest to the smallest. What are we at here?
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't see any high fructose corn syrup. I didn't see it. If it was cane sugar that was a part of
Uh,
Coca-Cola, it was still a Coca-Cola can. It's still the same
mhm.
company. So what hit me there was the restrictions and the laws pertaining to different areas around the world of what they're allowed to put in their product.
Yeah.
So America, they're
Exactly.
allowed to put poison.
We're the worst. We're
It's
the
terrible.
absolute worst.
Are they trying to dumb us down? Not in,
You
like,
know, I
but the
yeah, on one
ingredients.
side, I would say yes. If you want to take the most non-conspiratorial side, you would say it's just greed, that the ingredients are cheaper, that, yeah, they can put red dye on your Fruit Loops to make the color pop more, and they can get away with it, so they do it. But it's the merger of, like, big business and government. Our FDA has been so corrupt, and I mean, this is just being uncovered now with the things they allow through, and Europe has such better food purity laws than we do. And why is that? The answer is corruption here. I mean, the richest country on earth should be the smartest country on earth. We should have the smartest laws, the best regulations. We have better air quality than China. That's good. But we have way worse food quality than Europe. Now, why is that? I mean, the things they allow, the Roundup that's all through the food that we eat, the wheat, the oats. I mean, these products have toxic amounts of that in it, and it's there's no excuse for that. If they can live without it in Europe, we can live without it here. We don't have to be using Roundup. We can just plow the fields under like they used to do instead of killing everything before they plant a new round of crops.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Gary Brecka said one time in a video, and this is a guy who he's a human biologist. This is a guy who he'll fix you up. I obviously know he sells a product as well, so there's kind of a meet in the middle with someone like that. But he makes a good point with something that he talks about with just the fruits in our food industry, where you've got strawberries and blueberries, which are porous fruits, right? Like they retain and they absorb a lot of things that they're exposed to. One of the things that they're exposed to, if it's not organic, is glyphosate, right?
Yeah.
Glyphosate gets inside these fruits. It goes through these fruits, through the lifespan of these fruits. And a lot of these fruits, they don't have like the metabolism. They have their ways, but they don't have very sufficient ways. They're not supposed to be sprayed with this stuff. Okay.
Right.
Let's just get that out there.
Yeah.
So they may not have these systems to bypass and to get these bad elements out of them, right? Like us humans,
Yeah.
right? We bifurcate, we urinate, we sweat, and we breathe, and this is how we get things out. But
Mhm.
fruits don't really act that way, so they retain a lot of it. And he said there was a study that they did one time. They compressed the fruits that they harvested this one season that were sprayed with glyphosate, and they compressed them. And with all the juices that came out of these fruits, they're almost like dehydrated. That's how much they compressed them. All the juice was out of them. They were able to use the juice from the strawberries to for the next season to spray them with glyphosate. This is how much
Oh
glyphosate
my
was
gosh.
in the fruits.
Jeez.
So I understand like people are going to lose money if there's pests that destroy your crops, but where are we at ethically here? Where are we at morally? What's going on here? People love money, and I understand the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. So maybe
Yeah.
I can kind of consider why they're doing this, but
Mhm.
it's wild.
It is, it is. It's and it's got to be turned around. The thing is, it takes a really strong hand to do that. And I hope RFK and Trump together can get it done. Nobody's tried before them. I mean, say what you will about liking or hating Trump and his attitude or whatever certain things he does, but I haven't seen anyone with a tenth of the courage that he has shown to get things done. And the food and RFK and the medical system, what he's trying to do, I think we need to get behind him and support him and pray for him. If you're a believing person, pray for these people who are. I feel our best chance at trying to turn some of this stuff around, and it takes people of courage who are willing to take the shots, who are willing to take the hits, and all the hassle and all the court cases and just can you imagine living your life that way every day? One court case to another, being blocked every time you try to do something. That would take a tremendous amount of character and discipline to keep moving forward in light of that. Most people would say, "The heck with this, I'm out of here. It's not worth it." But
Yeah, true. Yeah,
yeah,
anyway, it'd be just be frustrating, right? Like what kind of a life is that to live?
yeah,
I understand that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
For sure, man. And I think there is a heavy metal issue in the food as well. I think this is something that because these systems they're all kind of connected, and I think it's because the corporations have just gotten such to an elite power that they're able to just kind of go under the radar or bypass government authority in whatever way it is.
yeah.
It's almost like they have the control rather than the government has the control,
Oh,
which
it's a revolving door.
which like I mean and this is kinda where it gets weird, right? Like, I'm okay with that because I don't want full government control, but the people need to take back what's theirs, but they can't because the corporations own all of that.
Well, the conflicts of interest need to be eliminated. Like if you work for the FDA, you can't go to work for pharma for 10 years. If you work for pharma, you can't join the government in any position of anything related to, the FDA or the medical system or anything on the government level for at least 10 years. But it's a revolving door. I mean, they move from one to the other back and forth. I mean, Fauci Rand Paul wrote a book on Fauci, Senator Rand Paul, exposing the extreme conflict of interest. The man is supposed to be watching out for our health, and he recommends in the middle of the crisis we went through in 2020, which he knew, according to Rand Paul, had a 50% chance of killing you if you went on it. It had a death rate of like 50%. And yet that became the standard of care. Why? It's this revolving door where people are making money off their patents, and yet they're prescribing this solution and the standard of care. It's criminal, as far as I'm concerned.
It's wild, man. That
Yeah.
that was wild, right? But then there was another thing that kinda maybe took the place of the reason, and that maybe was, ventilators, right? Like, there was just so many multiple
Oh yeah.
angles that were hitting people in these times. There was the ventilators, there was remdesivir, there was all this stuff. I mean, I took a class one time, with a respiratory tech. These are people that basically they're the ones that intubate you. The doctors don't
Yeah.
intubate you. The paramedics, the nurses, they don't intubate you. The respiratory therapist or the respiratory tech comes in, and they're the one that specializes in doing this. And they're the ones that
Mhm.
puts you on the ventilators and all this stuff. So I took this class with them because I'm a preceptor at my department. I got to take these certain classes because I teach the paramedics out on the street. And
Mhm.
so this information that I learned from this class was very valuable, but it was very shocking at the same time. And in this class, it really talked about how ventilators, the body is not built, it doesn't have this the anatomy and the physiology to survive off of a ventilator, meaning in the long term or in short term, depending on, how people's just genetic makeup is, they can reject these things in the idea of pathophysiology. Pathophysiology is the reverse function of the cell. So let's say you put someone on a ventilator because you have to do it because you have to save their life or whatever. The person may tolerate it or they may not. And you
Mhm.
know that until symptoms start to arise
Yeah.
where damage is already done. If that makes
Yeah, they
any
could be
sense.
very dangerous, yeah. So my wife and I were out in Arizona a few years back, and she didn't know it, but, I mean, she had an extreme shellfish allergy that kicked in, and all of a sudden her throat started to tighten. Um, was having a hard time talking. We go to the emergency room. They're giving her these drugs to try to open her up again, to offset the inflammation and everything. And it's kind of not working well enough. They're saying we're going to have to ventilate you if we can't turn this around fast enough. And they said it like about 4 times in a row, real within 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, why do you keep saying that? If that's what she needs, give it to her. I had no idea how dangerous they were. I learned this later. They ended up not uh, putting her on that, intubating her. Thank God. But, I mean, maybe she wouldn't be here if they had. I mean, it's a pretty risky business when that happens.
And I get it because it's in that, and I get it because I'm a medic, so I get like wanting to save life, but then also understanding what what can this do to my patient as well, So it's kind
Mhm.
of like sometimes you may be put into that situation where you've got to do this, right? You have to
Yeah.
take control of the airway. You've got to do the, let's just say for example, there's inhalation burns, right? You know that their their airway is going to swell up, and if it swells up, there's like you can't even get a tube in there. So we need to take control of the airway just in case like that swelling does occur and that does happen
Mhm.
before it's too late. So I get it, right? But at the same time, they were doing this to people when they were at 90%
Yes.
saturations.
Yeah.
I mean, 85% saturations. I've dealt with a guy where we hung out, we talked, and we went to the hospital, and the guy was on 85 sat. I mean, it's like, hey, look, you're managing, you're doing okay. It's coming up. Just let your body get acclimated to the oxygen. Let it try to, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, back during the pandemic, that happened to a friend of my wife's in the town where she grew up. One of her friends, her father was a minister. He was in the hospital. They said, we need to ventilate. You said, I feel fine. Don't do it. They ended up doing it. He died the next day. The guy
ah,
was,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And then they're incentivized. They were incentivized at that time, to mark things as being
right.
due to
Yeah,
the thing we were all facing. Don't have to say it again, but they were
right.
they were highly incentivized,
Yeah.
$53,000 in some cases.
Wow, that's crazy. No, I
Yeah,
mean, that's and, we follow protocols, that's kinda just what we do. There's a scope that we can work
sure.
within, but then there's, like, a step-by-step process with this complaint or this complaint or
Yeah.
you see this is what you have to do. And it's kinda like, man, it's very structured, it's like someone's telling you what to do, but on paper.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense,
Well,
man.
talking about the global aspect of this, because, the book is about the globalist plan. These incentives that I was just mentioning were pretty much the same all throughout the Western world. Like if you went to the Australian currency or the currencies throughout Europe, these incentives were pretty much all the same.
And this is
To cla
Australia, right?
Yeah,
Australia had
Australia,
to
the US, the UK, all of Western Europe, the way doctors were being pressured to classify sickness as being a certain thing, and the money they got when they progressed them, onto ventilators and all this stuff, the financial incentives were parallel throughout the Western world. It
oh,
was a
wow.
top-down incentive plan.
How bad was Australia? Australia, I
They were
remember them
really
they
bad.
had to have said the word New World Order like 45 times, and I'm like, "This is the spearhead of this entire operation. They're leading out all of the protocols that the globalists want to run
Yeah.
out." And Australia was doing that you
The
should you
the The elements of the former British Empire are where it tends to be the worst. Australia, the UK, Canada. Those are where they
Yes.
roll
Okay.
out the
Yeah.
stuff, and the tyranny is really high. They're all part of that same kind of
Well, I
system.
remember too during those times, and I mean, dude, even just look at it right now. This is the UK with the digital ID system. I
Yep.
mean, you've got the
The
digital ID
lockdowns in
was
Australia when they forced people into these camps. Do you remember that?
yes, that's wild.
Yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
went to your house.
They did.
Oh man, it
Yeah.
feels like like a decade ago, but was not that long ago.
The human mind, I think it's a defense mechanism. We kind of like it gets out of our mind and we forget about it. We're designed to move on. We're designed to survive, right? But I mean, if we look back at these times, this was absolutely nuts. And so, what I try to do, what the attitude I've taken in the book and everywhere else in my life since then is I don't let it go. I force myself to connect the dots and say, why would they do that? I mean, it was so bizarre that they did, but then you say, well, they did the same thing in all these European countries and Australia and Canada and the US. How could it possibly be the same? And then you have to force yourself to do that if you're going to be able to face the reality and really learn something from this. And we don't want to do that. We don't
Right,
want to go there, but we need to do it. And on
right.
so many levels, the banking system, all kinds of things.
We need to have the same attitude that the farmers had in the UK. We just need to spray manure on.
Yeah, that was Brussels, but yeah,
Oh, was it? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
worldwide, let's go.
Worldwide, yeah, that's right, man.
um, I saw Bill Gates talking about. He's also pushing the digital ID. I mean, it's not a
Of
shock.
course,
Obviously, this
yeah.
is a guy that owns what? I mean, over 40, 50, 60, 70% of the farmland. Who knows? It's going up and it's going to keep going up. And I think why he's also kind of not only taken over a lot of the farmland. When I see him being incorporated and having a connection with farmland, I see it as real estate, and I'm like, why does he have that real estate? And it makes sense to me when I found out that him, Rockefeller, and Gavi actually own a doomsday seed vault up in Norway. So
Wow.
they own a doomsday seed vault with over 180,000 species of seeds, and it's growing. Okay, we're talking about a base that is underground in the Arctic Circle. So,
Mhm. Wow.
and so when you see the Rockefellers involved, Gavi, which is basically like almost a Monsanto, okay, there's there's a there is a conspiracy here. There's people get the wrong idea with the word conspiracy. The CIA did a great job coming up with the term conspiracy theorist during the JFK event,
Right.
because it totally discredits what people have to say when they say the word conspiracy. Conspiracy just basically means that there's people out there with an agenda, but they're telling you something else.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
working
they're
together to
very
accomplish it.
clever.
Yeah.
They don't want you to anticipate their next move. They want to
This is
come
as old
in out
as
of the
time
dark.
itself, and it's human nature. This is kids stealing the teacher's scorebook for what the answers are to the test and sharing it with each other. People have been conspiring together for as long as time has existed, and at all kinds of levels. It's part of human nature to want to get an advantage. So it's kind of like the dark side of human nature. So to think that there wouldn't be conspiracies when people have all kinds of money and power and the ability to work together in ways that we can't imagine, they have these advantages. To think they wouldn't use it, some people are definitely going to use it. It's human nature, and especially if there's
That's
no
how we
God element
roll.
there. Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, there's
right.
good. That's where God comes in, man, right? Like
Hmm.
there is a battle on this chessboard of a realm that we live in, and there's a battle
Absolutely.
between good and evil. And at the
And
end of
we
the
all have
day,
that same battle within ourselves, right? From day to day, we gotta make the right choice. We have to turn to God, turn away from evil. I mean, we have choices. All of us do every single day.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And the
Mm.
way that the carnal mind works, which I think these people are nothing more than just carnal, sinful, they love their lusts. And if anything, they might be, I don't know, they might think themselves as gods.
Oh,
right?
probably. Yeah.
And when that happens, that to me is like what the serpent spoke in the Garden of Eden, like you will be as gods. If anything, maybe he was whispering, you are gods, right? Like you look at you, you're made in the image of God. So people that's what stirs up the wrong set of thought of your thoughts.
Hmm.
It's what we have to repent from is what I believe that we're called to do as Christians. So you got to repent from the way that you've thought, the way that the flesh dictates and wants to think on a daily basis. And that's why we are on platforms like this, and we are saying the things that we are, and we're trying to call out and expose these, the evil that's out there. Back to Bill Gates with the digital ID, he's also pushing the idea of an electronic tattoo. Have you kind of caught this concept recently?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's all part of the mark of the beast system. It's all part of the control grid that they're trying to establish. I mean, even if somebody doesn't believe in the Bible, when it says that this is coming at some point in the future, um, even if that's totally out of your mind, you got to say the level of control that they're trying to get by turning you into like basically a digital ID that is a mark. It's just what kind of mark is it? And the reason I say it's a mark is it's tied to you. It marks you. Now, if it's we think of the mark as the one that's going to be under your skin, on your forehead, or your what is it, your right wrist or something,
Hmm.
your right hand. But even if it's not that, the thing that locks into you is a mark. It's a mark on you. It tracks you. It's your digital ID. So I don't care how they do it. If they're successful at enforcing a digital ID, at that point, some level of a mark has been implemented. And that's where they're trying to go.
Well, you hit it right on the head. It's a digital ID. It identifies you, but then it also identifies who you identify yourself with. And so what I mean by that is like I identify myself with Christ. I don't identify myself with this world. My
Hmm.
God's not of this world. This is his creation, but things got messed up. There's a
Right.
gap here. Um, and I think that's one thing that the digital ID is going to start to condition people with is that who do you identify with? Do you identify with the world? And if you identify with the world, then you'll be connected with the things of the world, and you'll be able to buy and sell with all of these things. And it makes me think back too with Bill Gates, the farmland, the seed vault, the doomsday seed vault, by the way. Don't get that twisted. Um, what are the things that we buy and sell uh, most of? We buy and sell food. Like that's the most that we buy and sell.
Food and energy.
Food and energy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why he's kind of trying to take over because if he can if there's a crisis that hits the food industry or some sort of cyber polygon crisis that takes down the banking grid or all this kind of stuff, they want to corral us to a digital ID, and those are the two ways that I think that they can do it. They can do it through knocking out all electronics and some sort, or zeroing your bank account. That'll corral you to a digital ID because if they can push something that now verifies who you are, then this will never happen again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what cyber polygon is. It's stealing of identity.
Yeah, and basically having total control, your freedom really goes away. You're kind of like a rat in a maze. You're really limited to which way you can turn and go. They have you on a track that is very hard to get out of. One thing I did want to say, I never heard anybody opine on this. Maybe you have. The Bible says when this is implemented, fully implemented, no one will be able to buy or sell. It doesn't say no one would be able to trade or barter. So,
That's a good point.
it's not like so for the people who are worried about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? If your trust is in God, he'll find a way. And some people may have to give their lives, but the bottom line is don't take the mark. Whatever happens, do not take that thing in your forehead or your right hand ever, ever, because at that
Listen
point,
to him, folks.
at that point, your soul may not be able to be saved.
I
So
agree. I think it's going to have something to do where it will maybe steal the agency of our consciousness.
yeah,
If there's when the Bible says that the the false prophet, the antichrist, and those that have the mark are casted into the lake of fire. The ones that have the mark, I mean, they can't repent, they can't change their mind, they can't do any of this. That
Right.
has to allude to something on a conscious level to where it's able to take you out of the driver's seat, put you in the back seat. You're there. You're in the vehicle.
Yeah,
You're the ghost in the machine. You just cannot
exactly.
make
The lights are
decisions
on, but
anymore.
nobody's home.
That's wild, man. That's wild. You know, because you have here in the next pillar section self-identity.
Yeah.
Um, how can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So when I got the inspiration for the book, the section on self identity was actually broader than what I ended up writing in the book. I devoted the chapter to the most obvious one, which is the male female self identity and all the work that's being done from the top down to try to confuse people, especially children, as to their sexual identity. And sexual identity, of course, is a lot more than just what kind of body parts do you have. It's really gets down to the core of who you are, even spiritually. Like, what is a man? What is a woman? You know, we had a Supreme Court nominee who couldn't, Ketanji Jackson Brown, who
Right.
couldn't define what a woman was. Really, she didn't want to define it. Um, she didn't want to admit that she knew, so she pretended she didn't. But like, why is that going on? That's just a symptom of this great battle to redefine what a man is and what a woman is. So a man can dress like a woman, and all of a sudden now he can compete in women's sports. That's what was going on. We're denying reality, and I mentioned this on another podcast, but there was a historian who studied all the great civilizations, the great world dominating powers down through history, you know, Rome, Greece, all of them. And they go through this cycle, and the last phase for every great world leading power, the last phase of demise is when they adopt transgenderism. When they get to the point where they're willing to deny the reality of male versus female, they have lost their grip on reality. And I am so grateful that in this country, at least, there's some strong pushback on this craziness. But you know where that was heading before the resistance came in. And we have to be really careful that this could be the end of society if we're going to keep pretending there's no difference between men and women, that it's all in your head. You know, it's not just your biology; it's the way you were created. I mean, even from a biological point, there's a point in a young boy's life um, where the brain changes, right? Where the brain chemical nature of the brain changes in boys versus girls. So there's just differences, all kinds of differences physiologically, but there's also even spiritual differences. And as parents, we need to defend this. We need to make sure that our boys understand what it means to be a boy, to be a man, what's expected of you, leader, protector, provider, defender. And boys are stepping away from that, playing video games, being confused. There's take your daughters to work. There's not a take your son to work day. There's, the women superheroes beating up the guy. We say we just sit and take this. There's the commercials that make the men look like absolute idiots. Find me one commercial where the woman looks like an absolute idiot. Find one. I bet you can't find one. You can turn on your TV and see all night long, the woman's educating the man on what he ought to be doing. He's the one that looks stupid in front of the kids. In the sitcoms, he looks stupid. In the movies, he looks stupid. And then once in a while, a movie comes by that pushes back on that just totally blows that away, like Top Gun Maverick, and just has a totally different, here's a male that's competent, he's brave, he's capable, he's smart. And the movie sells like crazy because people are dying for this reality. But, there's this effort to confuse. And if you can do that, you can break down society. That's
Right.
what that's what they're trying to do. And not just here, all over the Western world.
Right. And this
Yeah.
goes back to when I mentioned earlier in the show, about balance, right? Like it's like Satan's coming to try and bring balance. He doesn't want order.
Hmm.
We see things differently because we see God, then we see the man, then we see the woman, then we see the children. And the children serve the mother, and the mother serves the husband, and the husband, serves, you know, God. And this is kind of like they all serve God, right? But what I'm saying is this is kind of like the structure. The mother has the dominion over the children. Like that's, and that's just that's the order of creation. That's the order of how things were inputted into this realm. And women have such an important role. We all do. The
Everybody
children
does. Yeah, they're
has a
just
role.
different. And it's
Exa-
okay that they're
and
different.
it's like
It's
this.
actually good that they're different. Like
Yeah,
the French
no,
say, what? Viva la différence?
I love that.
Celebrate the difference. We got
I
to
love
like it.
that.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And because picture it like this, right? We have a military. If, we have a military, it's broken down into different orders. We've got the Marines, we've got the Navy, we've got the Air Force. It's just broken down into different fractions here. It's all one, but each one serves a purpose and each one has a job to do. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I look like at the family. That it doesn't mean that the army is more important than the Navy or the Navy is more important than the Air Force. It's like if we don't have one of these, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah, isn't that's so biblical, right? This wasn't it St. Paul that said, there's all these different things in the body of Christ, can everybody be an eye? Can everybody be an ear? What if everybody was an ear? What would that do? We're
Mm,
different, and that's fine, but it's like it's a design that's meant to work together, when it's not working properly, when men try to dominate women or women try to dominate men, then it's all screwed up. But if everybody would cooperate with the way that God had it, then men would be better men and women would be better women. Men would be kinder to their wives and women would naturally want to cooperate with their husband because they admire him, they respect him, because he's being Christ-like. He's being an example, a servant leader, not a tyrant, right? Now, so it's just been since the fall of man, Adam and Eve, since the fall of man and sin entering into the world, that relationship between men and women has been screwed up. And I believe the only way to get that relationship back in balance is for the man to turn to Christ and submit completely to him, the
mhm.
woman to submit to Christ too, but then to submit to his plan for the family. And then it comes into harmony and everybody's happy.
Right,
But
and the
without
husband
that,
serves the wife as
yeah,
well as the wife serving the husband. It's just
absolutely.
there's an
Just different
order
ways
here.
of serving, but it's
Yeah,
all complementary. I mean,
right.
when I grew up, a lot of kids, it was at the stage where a lot of moms were at work, but not everybody. I was lucky enough to have a mom that stayed home. Now, I remember on some school days where my mom wasn't there when I got back from school. When I got home from school, the house seemed empty and lonely in a way that it would never have seemed if it was my dad that wasn't home. In other words, the mom has a role within the family that's unique and nurturing, and you just value that, right? And so, um, a man could never take the role of a mother and do it as well as a woman can because they're made to be able to do it better. It's it's a gift they've been given. And
It's
a
in their
woman
code.
and likewise a woman would never do as good a job at defending her home against an attacker, right? As a man would. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact of it, right? It's the way we're made. The adrenaline men have that can kind of come out of nowhere and give almost superhuman strength. The way men are willing to step into the battle if they're healthy men is different than the way women will. Now I know women will die for their kids. I don't mean that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the regular aspect of the way we're made. And it is different. And I think we do ourselves a great disservice when we try to pretend they're the same, but that is exactly what is being trying to be forced on us. There's no difference. We just have different anatomy, but once you take that layer off, we're all the same, and we're not.
Yeah. I mean, full circle. I think the food's affecting this issue. I
Yeah.
think that, the things they're spraying in the air are affecting this issue. I think a lot of so many other things that I feel they're targeting this specific topic because number one, I think it'll totally demoralize the people. They won't know how to assess true information because they're so confused about who they are and what body that they're in and just how things are naturally made and
Mhm.
structured and I feel that it's to not lead a revolt against any government authority.
Yeah, to weaken men, to weaken their resolve, to cause confusion, to just break it all down.
Like you
And
grew up in a great sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you
yeah,
grew up in a great era,
yeah,
because the movies that were out, I mean, Sylvester Stallone,
oh
Arnold
yeah,
Schwarzenegger, I mean, like,
yeah,
dun, 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 it's like
yeah.
you had these action figure movies, man, and, you don't have that anymore. If anything, I think that I'm not saying this in any way towards women, but there's a divine feminine that's rising up, and it is pushing through the entertainment system
Oh yeah.
very hard, and these men are becoming feminized in the way that now we look at Spider-Man as an action hero today, and it's like he's a young, skinny little guy that you know is real nice, and he gets pushed around, and he's bullied. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just how I'm thinking. Maybe I don't think I'm wrong, but maybe some people may think I'm wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, they just been messing with the psyche of men in particular, but they do the same thing to women. I mean, anytime they try to erase the difference, it's harmful to both. Um, but yeah, so I mentioned that the inspiration for that chapter, I really realized that this self identity goes even further than that. Although I don't write about it that much, it also gets into confusion into my identity as a citizen of the United States. What's that mean? What's it mean to be a member of my family, a member of my community? Everything is being digitized, and like the common, it's like we're being nudged into becoming citizens of the world where there really isn't any country identity so much. There isn't really any national identity so much. Um, remember the days when the football games, the National Football League, every game would start with like a flyover, the Jets, you know, the uh, the patriotic songs and everything. Patriotism was a much stronger thing if you go back 20 years than it has been pretty much since the last 5, 10 years. Now I know they're trying to there's a move to try to get that back under the Trump administration, giving credit where it's due, like Hegseth getting the DEI out of there, Trump getting the DEI out of the government levels. That's a very conscious effort to reintroduce, um, real manhood into the military, the warrior spirit, the warrior ethos, as they say, to get that back. But that has to be a very proactive thing. I mean, in the book, it talks about that there's a government effort in the Air Force to reduce the number of males in the Air Force from, I think it was 64% down to 42%. It was a target. Now, the military used to be the most non DEI thing in the world. Like, it didn't matter what you were, what color you were, all that mattered was results. You get results, you move up, and everybody knew that was how the whole thing worked. Then DEI came in, and it's not about results anymore. It's about quotas, and that is the worst thing for society. It should never be about what you look like or what your heritage is. It should be about, can you do the job? Who can do it best? You get to do the job. I want the best surgeon. I want the best pilot. you know, and I want the best bus driver. I want the person who can do the job the best to be doing that job. I don't want somebody that got that job who didn't deserve it because somebody had a quota system that they were trying to satisfy. It's
Right.
but that all ties into the identity thing, and they're trying to switch our identity with all this manipulation, this
Yeah,
social engineering.
the inclusion is wild, man, and, I've seen a little bit, at least in my workforce, and I'm sure it's everywhere, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I think BlackRock owns everything, so, whatever job it is that you have, if it's not, a private franchise, then I think at some point it's gonna be incorporated with your workspace, and, I remember there was a problem with, airliners or, pilots,
Yeah.
Spirit Airlines, these different companies that were being more inclusive of, being more diverse pertaining to ethnicity and all this kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
and
some of
it's
them saying they wouldn't hire male pilots.
yeah, and it's like, hang on here. For example, the male pilot may have 40 years of experience here, okay, and we're gonna hire the guy that just got out of or the girl that just got out of school over the 40 years of experience. Okay, well,
Yeah,
who know I mean, that
craziness.
just doesn't make sense to me,
Mm,
because here's the thing too, when it comes down to these jobs is you now there's a training system within all of these jobs, and why you should have people in positions that have experience rather than people that have just come out of school or being more inclusive or just being more diverse. It's because now these people that are higher up in the system that have the positions, they're the ones that are going to teach the ones that are subordinate to them. And
right.
now this is how you get a really, really fine-tuned, uh, you know, structured, well-oiled machine
Mhm.
of just what's the word I want to try and call it, but it's just you're giving a good product. Like it's proper service to whatever it is you're doing.
Right, right. You got the quality in there because you have the best people at each spot.
Mhm.
It's common sense. I mean, if you're running a business, you're gonna want the best person. If there was no manipulation, you would have one criteria normally, who can do the best job for the lowest price or whatever, but who can do the best job? If it's a key position, it's almost like money doesn't even matter. You just want the best person you can afford, and that's all you care about because you want results.
Right, right. People want to be the one that controls the video game rather than being a character in the video game. And what I mean by that is they people today, at least some of these generations coming up, they want to be the winner. They want the one that gets all the fame for winning the game. But
Mm.
they have to understand they have to come that position isn't just gifted to you. You have to work towards it and you have to kind of go through the system to become that that the one that the coach, right? So
Yeah.
pretty much you have to go and you have to start off as a point guard and then you have to work your way up and then at some point then you promote up, then you promote again, then you promote and then you're the coach now you get a lot of the glory. People want that. They want that satisfaction of accomplishment to themselves, and it's just a selfish generation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think during the lockdowns that really contributed to that because people were getting all the free money. We were all getting kind of lazy, you know what I mean? The government handouts, there was money thrown in there to try to stop businesses from going out of business. I can't say it was all bad. It wasn't all bad, but it was certainly abused. And a lot of people just got used to getting money without having to work very hard for it. And it just feels like since then, it's really hard to find people who have that genuine work ethic, just want to do the best job they can. And they want it to come easy. That's kind of what you were saying. They want to get to that glory. Just skip over all the steps in between and jump right to the position of glory. Like the easy way to
Right.
success or something.
Right, yeah, they wanna live out of mom's house for the rest
Yeah.
of their life. And mom's house always has a stocked fridge. There's always a car in the driveway with full tank of gas. There's all these things that you haven't worked for 1 second in your life, and you're just kind of just gifted these things. I think a lot of it has to do to, like, maybe push us towards, I don't know, socialism or Marxism or some sort of other kind, I think it's socialism, but it's some sort of way to push us all more to an equality, a balance, and just to kind of just revert back to, the family structure we were getting into. God is order, Satan is balance. He wants to balance the man and the woman. He wants to make them equal. Now they're equal as far as creation and their integrity and their purpose, but they're not equal to what capabilities they have and what
Yeah,
they
they're
can
not the
do.
same. He wants to make them the same.
Right. And
And
when
that's
you
what the communists tried to do with the way everybody was
exactly.
dressed the same. And it's basically a very evil thing at its heart. And, I say the communists, but, in 1963, they read the 45 Goals of Communism into the congressional record as a warning to America as to what the communists were trying to do to destroy this nation, to take it down from the inside. And the goals are what we're talking about, breaking down the family, breaking down cultural standards of morality, um, emphasize the need to raise children away from the influence of parents, the school taking control. The school, I mean, it's horrifying to me that, you hear these stories of these teachers in schools, or, are getting these kids to think they're another gender, and then they don't let the parents know. They hide it. They hide it from the parents. And this stuff's going on with your own kids and you don't even know. You know what I mean? So this is just an example of that kind of evil attitude of trying to pull people away from God's plan, which is basically the parents are responsible for their kids, to take it to like someone else, the state's responsible, so that again they can get that top-down control, social engineer, society toward their goal of, like you said, you call it balance. I would call it like sameness and
Mhm.
lack of. It's like bland food. If every food tasted the same, everything would seem bland, right? There'd be no variety, and that's what they're doing with the human race in a way, is trying to deny the difference, take away the difference, muzzle it down, cover it up, pretend it isn't there, and it takes away kind of just the joy of living. I think, and that kind of
Yeah.
attitude.
Yeah, and two, you can identify who is for what, if who's for order or who's for balance based off of the political spectrum we have now. But what's crazy is in that order of man, woman, children, with God at the top, balance has no room for the children or God. Balance takes the man and the woman of in the order that God had it, brings it over and puts it in like this Trinity aspect where there's like this Trinity sign, and you have men in one side and women in the other, and they constantly circulate each other because they're fully balanced. That doesn't leave any room for children or God, which makes me think, why, number one, that's political spectrum that supports that doesn't like God, they hate God, they try to remove God in wherever yeah, aspect of the world that they can. And then I feel like there's no need for children for some of those people, which we can see
Yeah.
with,
So many
obviously
of
the
them
Roe
don't have
v. Wade
kids.
thing or whatever. I mean, you can see these people standing outside of these health clinics, and you could see them advocating for what they truly like to do, and that's to not have children. I mean, it's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, and there's activists on both sides that go out there and try to, I mean, they're just clashing and they're fighting pretty much. It's like protester fight. Um, but you can see that they don't want room for children either. And it makes me very worried because birth rates are starting to decline a little bit. Which then brings on what we full circle back around to what we got into in the beginning of the show,
Yeah.
population. And it's like, this is what the globalists want to happen. These are what the people that really rule this world want to happen.
Yeah.
It's full disorder.
Yeah. It's a shame. It is a shame.
Yeah. So the last pillar,
Yes,
the
we're there
last
finally.
pillar, faith.
Faith,
And
yeah, my favorite one.
I was gonna say my favorite one too, man.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write this?
Well, it was the last interview you did where I talked about how this came to me. This came to me as a revelation, these 11 collapse points. Just real quick, when I woke up at 4 in the morning in April 2024, I had this like flash. It was like an instant flash of these 11 collapse points. There were six, and then there were three, and then there were two. We talked about that. So I remember on some of these, and I'm writing them down as they're coming to me, and I remember being surprised. I remember this sensation of, wow, I never thought of that, which is kind of how I knew it was coming from the outside, not from my mind, or not from a dream or anything. It's just I woke up and it was like a flash of instant knowledge of these. So I didn't plan for this to be one of the 11. It was just there. But I remember being surprised that it was. I was surprised that self identity and faith were actually considered like pillars of society that were in danger of coming down. Like they didn't seem like they were in the same category as like the food supply or the borders or the medical system. They're kind of different. These are more like our identity, our self identity, and then our faith. And but after in researching this and writing it, what I came to realize is that faith is actually the most important pillar. And it's one that many people would be surprised by because so many people have such weak faith. But it's when you take away faith that you take away the power of conviction, real conviction, and you take away the power to resist tyranny at a really meaningful level. Who do the tyrants go after usually? If you go back in history, they take out the ministers, they take out the priests, they take out the believers, they take out the preachers because they don't want anybody resisting them. And it's the people of faith who are the ultimate resistance because they are loyal to God. Like I love that in the Old Testament. Meshach, Sadrach, and Abednego. King Nebuchadnezzar says, "Bow down and worship my golden statue, or I'll throw you into the fiery furnace." And they say, "We don't know if God will save us or not, but know this, O king, we're not bowing down to your stinking statue." And they get thrown in there and they survive, and then he becomes a believer. Nebuchadnezzar becomes a believer. But that's the attitude. That is the power of faith, is to say, no, I will be loyal to what I believe. I will be loyal to my God. Even if it costs me my life, I will be loyal. And that is the power that they fear more than anything, because you can't control a person like that.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and I think that those guys were tough.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
that
Yeah.
isn't that such an inspiring moment biblically, and there's so
Oh,
many
it's my
stories
favorite.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys go hard.
Yeah, oh my gosh, the
um,
courage.
well, the courage, yeah, I know, man, and the faith, right? The amount of faith that it takes to do that, and I mean, and again, there's all these little stories biblically that can kind of circulate in multiple different areas. It almost is like that time in Revelation where it's like those that don't take the mark of the beast are beheaded, right? Or
Yeah,
who were beheaded because they didn't take the mark. I
right.
think it's in Revelation 20, but I think it's something that in multiple different areas in history, there's always these circumstances or there's these typologies or there's these kind
Mhm.
of history kind of rhymes or repeats. You can kind of debate over those two words there, but it's like it just kind of follows the same trend, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
And maybe, hopefully not in our lifetimes, but we won't have to face anything like that. But for the future generations ahead of us, I hope they don't have to face anything like that. But it may
yeah,
come down to something like that if there's a totalitarian takeover of the entire world, a one world
mhm,
government, religion, and currency. People have to understand that, your faith is way stronger and is greater than all of the world, you
Yeah.
know?
And faith and courage are contagious. When people model it, when they demonstrate it, um, it causes people to rise up and take courage. I mean, that's, they say the growth of the church was, on the blood of the martyrs. When you see people being killed for what they believe, it makes you step up. It's the Charlie Kirk effect. I mean, look at what happened when people saw what happened to him. So many people had their eyes opened and had their faith expanded. They started taking their faith more seriously, started turning to God, listening to things he said over the years that Charlie Kirk has said about God and about faith. And there's something about that when you see somebody really take a hit for what they believe, it inspires other people to step up. And so we need to realize that we need to be an example of faith and courage, first of all, to our children, to our family, but to the people around us too. It's part of what we're called to do. And, I kind of went through a faith journey in writing this book and in deciding how vocal I was going to be about it. And even if I was going to admit how these 11 collapse points came to me, it was divine inspiration. And some people say, well, that sounds crazy. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to say what happened because it's what happened and it's the truth. And if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have written this book. I've never been motivated to take the time and effort and all the energy it takes to kind of stop what you're doing on your day-to-day job and carve out time to write a 300-page book. So, yeah, that's it. And I find that the more I am completely transparent about my faith, the stronger my faith gets.
Mhm.
We have to make that decision. It's a judgment call, but when we finally go all in, really big things happen. I'm convinced that's just the way life works.
Yeah,
It's the yeah,
yeah, well, I really that, you know, impacts me a lot because it's something that God's been working on me, obviously, and I've had multiple people on the show who don't believe in God or they're atheists,
sure,
or I mean, maybe someone might be an occultist, which is crazy because again, I interview some of these people because I kind of want to see how the enemy works. And and I can get that out of some people when I'm interviewing them, and we can see how maybe the other spectrum believes in certain things, and then it kind of just puts our faith in more of a perspective that how true it really is. Um, and our faith is such a testimony to other people. You said transparent. Well, Romans 1:16 has been resonating on me for the past 20 or so episodes, and I'm not someone I've never been ashamed
hmm
of my faith, but I've never wanted to disrespect people. I've never wanted to
sure,
like Bible bash people or
yeah,
say this, but God's kind of started to shape me and work me into a way to where I'm standing up for what I believe in, but I'm also not afraid to speak about certain things. And, as I've been doing that, God's, I could see how the words that come out of my mouth may impact someone. Maybe they
yeah,
shut down. Maybe they kind of are like, huh, I didn't think of it that way, or something, right? Where maybe a seed's planted. I don't know when it's going to grow, but maybe there's something in there now that,
yeah.
God working through me, did for others.
Yeah, there's a freedom that comes with just being who you really are and not holding back when you talk about God or the impact He's had on your life or what He means to you in terms of trying to follow Him. And I feel like this world is on the edge of a cliff, teetering on the edge of the cliff. It could go one way or the other. I mean, this country is teetering on the edge of financial collapse, possibly. And but there's so much at stake in the world today. People trying to take it down, the globalists trying to take it down. If there was ever a time to speak up, it's now. This is not the time for going soft on the truth, not the time to, hide it under a bushel basket, as they say. I think we need to let the lamp shine. But I think, the key is to just be real and to be um, good natured. There's people that beat people over the head with, their truth, so to speak. But there's also a way, like, there's also a way to say it in a way that shows that you respect the person, you love the person, you care about the person. Um, but we need to let the chips fall where they will. We need to step up more than we have in the past. I really believe that.
I agree. I agree,
Yeah.
man. And hey, I'm glad you put all this stuff down in a book, which can last for years and years and years, man. And it'll outlive all of us, hopefully, on some bookshelves. But I really I love the title. Number one, the title is awesome. There's so many components in this book that really hit home with a lot of the things we talked about, and I'm pretty sure even just with episode, part one and part two, we scratched the surface with a lot of these things. Um, what was the what was the best part you got out of writing this book?
Uh, for me, the best thing was that I, and I can't explain why, but I went from, uh, I went from having so many concerns about this nation and kind of being down on what our future was and being just from having this attitude toward, oh, the globalists are probably going to win this. I went from that to, no, we can actually push back and beat this thing. I have like a positive attitude, and it sounds crazy. Like, how could anybody write a book like this and have a positive attitude? It's because I kind of feel like the book was given to me not to just inform, but to cause people to take action. I think that's really the thing. We need to understand these 11 pillars of society that are under attack and then do what we can to spread awareness of it and then to start pushing back. When enough people become aware, they push back. I mean, look at how the DEI thing flipped. You know what I mean? How it flipped. It took Trump being out there, and then other people started stepping up, and other people started stepping up, and pretty soon, all these DEI things start to look stupid. They're being made fun of. You know what I mean? It's like it's being exposed for what it is. So that's an example of you expose the truth, people wake up, and they start pushing back. Right? It's on all these 11 collapse points. It's like.
Yeah,
No, we demand more from our educational system. We
right.
demand more about protecting our borders. We demand more in our food quality. Now that it's been revealed, we demand more from our medical system. Don't try to force us these things down our throats. Tell us what's really going on and let us make the decision. It's like that on all 11. So we can reach a tipping point. So, man, I just encourage people, check it out. Go to globalcollapsebook.com, learn about the book. You can get a signed copy for about the price of an unsigned copy on Amazon. You can get a signed copy on the website. Read it, share it with your friends. It is actually an easy book to read. You get to, you got 175 links to videos and other documents. You can go deep if you want to. Most of the videos are short. It's illustrated. So it'll let you get your arms around the whole plan of the globalists, what they're about, what they're trying to achieve. It'll connect the dots for you, and it'll give you all these links you can share with people because you scan the QR code with your phone, you can share that link with somebody. Hey, check out this video, and I don't know. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on it from those who actually read it. So I would encourage you to check it out, maybe buy a copy, and it's also available in audiobook too. So if you don't like to read, you can listen to it. And the audiobook gives you a link to 175 QR codes that you can open as a separate link or actually print them out if you want to scan them with your phone as you're listening to it too. So
Now, how
either
do you
way,
know
you
when
get the.
the QR code comes up for that point in the
So in the
audiobook?
audiobook version, I say QR code 80, number 89, and I describe
Nice.
it.
Did you do your own audiobook?
I did my own, yeah.
Oh, you did? That's
Yeah,
cool, man. That's
yeah.
cool. That makes it a little bit more authentic, man. That's awesome. Alan, listen, man, it's a pleasure having you on, man. I'm glad that we covered your book. Are you trying to write another book for the future?
Not yet, but
Not
I've
yet?
been giving it a lot of thought. Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
just don't
right.
know where it needs to
Hey,
go. I need to
when the time's right.
when the time's right. Yeah, I want
Yeah.
this one to get out there more, and but yeah, I think it'll happen. We'll see.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I do want to share just one last thing is where um when we push back, when truth kind of prevails over error or evil, when good wins, obviously we're still in a battle. I think it's a spiritual battle, and it won't be over until God has his final judgment. But that makes me also understand that the enemy's going to go out, they're going to reevaluate their tactics, and they're going to come back and try and come back with whatever rush they have next in plan for us. So, but if anyone can just learn from how the world works, we can prepare and we can be ready for these certain things. So there's always a positive outlook with all this, man. Um,
Absolutely.
Alan, you did great, man. This was an awesome episode. We went 2 hours, brother. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. You shouted
Yeah.
out your book and all your links and everything, but for the people that may have missed that, where can they support you the most?
Yeah, go to globalcollapsebook.com. Again, you can get signed copies or you can get the links to Amazon. The book's available anywhere online books are sold. The audio book's available like on 50 platforms. So anywhere you get audio books, you should be able to find it as well. The Globalist Plan to Collapse Everything. And at the bottom of the page in the footer, there's links to my social media if you want to go deeper. And I am going to be doing a 12-part series on iHeartRadio that's supposed to release in December. So I'll have more information on my website when that happens at globalcollapsebook.com.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, hey, look, this was a great time, man. And I hope to get you on again in the future. There's many more things we can talk about.
Oh
But
yeah.
Allan Paul Roberts, everyone.
Thank you,
All right.
Stephen.
Yes,
Great
sir.
being
Thank
with
you.
you, man.
God bless, man.
Take care.
Biblical Hitman Debrief. What's up, everybody? Allan Paul Roberts. Thank you, brother, for coming on the show. It's a pleasure. Part 2 was a banger. Oh my goodness. And we didn't even cover as much as we did in the first episode. I mean, with the pillars, that is, but my goodness, I feel like the conversations was just so deep on both sides of you know, the aisle there. It was wild. But give it up for Alan, man. Thank you, brother, for coming on. Listen, we covered so much as far as and I love how authentic the conversation really went that episode. He's got a wonderful title here. Again, this is an adult pop-up book with people may not, what do you mean? Yeah, well, listen, it's there's QR codes here, so it takes you to a lot of these videos and stuff, and I'm pretty sure my community and the audience that's hanging out with me right now, that you guys have definitely seen most of this stuff, because I know you all are on top of your A game. You know what I'm saying? The biblical hitman. um but it's a lot of fun. I love having authors on the show. It makes me feel like I get to do a little fast track through some of these books. Also, they decide to share the books with me, which is so cool. I love books. Books are like Pokemon cards for adults. Now let's go. Um, you know, uh, we the medical stuff, wild. I may need to edit out for YouTube some of that stuff. Who knows? But we'll give it a try. We'll see where we're at. It might be walking on coals here, but the medical stuff is real. It was really something that took place, especially in the past. Well, I mean, it's 5 years ago now, which my goodness, that flew by. But what a terrible time it was for at least 2 of the years from 2020 to 2022. If you were part of the medical system, you were exhausted, not physically, but the resources of the medical system were exhausted. This was something where the whole industry was being taxed, not financially, but just being just taxed of the efforts of the people working around the clock, running the calls, taking care of the patients. It was a madhouse. I can't tell you how many hospitals were on black status every day. I would go into work, I'd get pass downs from people. These pass downs would be like, yeah, don't go to this hospital. Don't go to that hospital. This hospital is shut down. The only hospital you can go to is 45 miles away. It's like, oh my goodness, dude. What if I have a patient who's critical here? What's going on? And when you think about the medical system, people need to start to detach a little bit. That you're going to go get fixed immediately. That's not how this works. If anything, it works very similar to a restaurant. You get put on a waiting list at some point. And depending on the triage level, right, then you can get some care faster. But at this At the same time, you're put on a waiting list. I can't tell you how many people I put on these side beds, in hallways, and, they were just left there, and I'm not sure if they ever were catered to for 30, 45 minutes, who knows? It was a sad time, but we need to come to these realizations. We need to understand that this is the reality of our world, and we need to disconnect from all the illusion that we're taught, that we see on TV with Grey's Anatomy and all this stuff, where you go to the hospital, you think your problems are going to get fixed immediately, and that just may not be the case. But obviously, there was some weird, muddy water things taking place in those years as well with the medical system, the decisions that were made, the protocols that were set out. Obviously, medicine, we reevaluate the decisions that we make every year and we try to make better ones. That's why medicine is a practice. And the protocols that were out there from the NIH all the way down to the hospitals and the counties and the medical directors that we conduct these protocols by, we're in a way we're told what to do. So it's just we can't go outside those guidelines. Also, man, we got into let's open it up here. Let's check it out. I don't want to forget because well, I already forgot. So that's why I'm checking this out. But the food supply. The food supply was, I think, one of my favorites, if anything. I'm not a health nut, but I do know a little of a lot when it comes to that stuff. And the food supply that in the United States is just so different than all of the other countries around the world. When I mentioned the Bahamas, I'm not even joking to you, dude, that when I turned that soda can around, that Coca-Cola can, and I looked at the ingredients, number one, it was half the size, it was half the amount of ingredients. And there was no high fructose corn syrup, there was no caramel dye, there was no colors or any of this kind of stuff that is on a lot of the Coke cans that we have today. And a lot of that stuff is toxic on a certain level. I do think that, you're not hurting yourself by having something once in a while, but you got to understand that we're not all the smartest people. That there are a lot of people out there that drink soda every day. There's people that are out there eating, processed foods every day, and they can't help it. Number one, because the food industry makes these things so cheap and affordable for people to consume that this is what people gravitate to naturally. Because a lot of people in the world, they just don't make good money. It just is what it is. Like the low class is more of a population than the middle class. Middle class is less of a population than the low class, but more of a population than the high class. So this is like how it's like a pyramid that kind of, goes up. And it's unfortunate for that. Organic food is ridiculously expensive. I went to the store the other day to buy my daughter some blueberries and strawberries. Obviously, you remember when I said in the episode earlier about the glyphosate in non organic strawberries and blueberries, and it's been tested, it's been proven, and there's a lot of chemicals in those fruits where I try to buy organic, but a small box, the smallest box of blueberries you can get is $8. And I'm like, oh my goodness, bro. I still have 50 more things to buy. And I'm at $8. Just do 50 times 8, right? Everything seems to be $8. Do that math. And that's what I'm walking out the grocery spending. That's what I'm spending inside the grocery. Like that's ridiculous. The times that we're in, the food, the good food is expensive. But you got to eat the good food to stay healthy. You stay healthy, then you don't go to the doctor. Then you go to if you're racked up with medical bills, then you're putting even more debt, and it's just a terrible system. I'm sorry for bashing America. I'm bashing America so badly, but listen, that's just the way things are. That's the way that they're structuring these things to be. There's a lot of people getting paid with all this happening. There's a lot of people making money. Just go look at the charts. Go look at how much people made 5 years ago. It's wild. It's wild. Go look at these companies. Just type into Google right now. How much did some of these medical companies, these medicine companies, I can't say the word right, but just go see how much they made off of how much profit they made off of this. Well, especially when you saw during, those times that the world was locked down. I mean, what businesses were kept open? Go look how much money they made, right? And the food industry is just supplied by mass production. They're a conglomerate of 3 to 4 entities that own all this stuff that's ultimately owned by one entity. I mean, this is how things are compartmentalized because it's spread out, it's not just coming from one source, so you can't just point your finger in one direction and be correct, when you're calling these things out. Yeah, that's where you gotta break it down. You gotta do a lot of the research, and you gotta kinda show how the structure of all this stuff is owned. And Ian Carroll's done a pretty decent job of it. I'm sure you guys maybe know who that is. This guy who blew up and went on the Joe Rogan podcast and blew up again. Who knows? Maybe he's an industry plant. I don't know. Um, but what I do know is who I identify myself with. I identify myself with Jesus Christ. That's who I identify myself with. That's my Lord and Savior. That's the team that I play for. These people that are running the world, these Gnostics, they rule they rule for a different God, than the God that I worship. And when I say that, it's a little G. Okay, like don't get that twisted. Um, but it's the God of forces. It's the God of the Prince of the Power of the air, right? It's the God that provides all of these elites with all of the luxury and the money and the things that they have in this world, which they can't take with them, when they die. By the way, so it's really just temporary satisfaction. It's actually pointless. So they're making a really dumb decision, in my opinion. So I think it's important to just see what team you want to play for, because I don't know who's coming across this podcast. I don't know if if you enjoyed what we talked about. I mean, we're obviously preaching for the good team to win, and it's like a big cosmic chess game that's being played out on the table here. A lot of this stuff is spiritual, right? Like we're influenced by certain things. I'd say I'm influenced by God in my everyday walk, right? It's like when Alan was saying, he's like, we need to make decisions. We need to make the right decisions. We're being tested every day, and that's the name of the game. But let's take honor with it, right? Like let's have fun with it too. Doesn't always have to be like, oh, we're constrained to the obedience of the God Almighty. It's like, no, let's have fun doing it. Let's be positive when we are doing fruits for God. Like let's be positive when we're being transparent with other people about our faith. Let's have fun with it because it's good, you know? So I thought that was a fun episode. I hope you folks enjoyed it. And, I just wanted to just shout out to y'all guys and girls out there supporting the show, getting through the ad space. Again, it's the best way to support this podcast and the operation that I am running here. We're doing a lot of work. We're producing a lot of material. And without you folks, really, this stuff, it wouldn't have lasted this long. And it wouldn't be where it is today. So shout out, much love to each and every one of you. Listen, hey, if it's your first time or you're still hanging out with us right now, okay, you want to support the show, it's free. Head on over to YouTube. You can check out the channel there. Uh, Hit that subscribe button, like the show, share it with your friends. Drop a comment. I've seen that there's been more comments and there's been more views. So shout out to you guys and girls out there for supporting the show even more. I love it. I love it. And plus, with all the new subscribers and the new followers and stuff, it's been pretty cool. The show's growing. All glory to God. And I really, it's giving me more inspiration to continue to do what I'm doing, and it's making me happy in the times where I should be super sad and depressed, which I would say a lot of this podcast is saving my life right now and saving my mental health, because I am going through a lot outside of this camera shot. Okay. um Me and my family are going through a tremendous amount of stress right now, and we're in the process of building a home. It's been 2.5 years. We're actually switching contractors, and we may be out a lot of money. So pray for us, me and my wife. Just send some prayers our way. We need it. Obviously, pray for health more than anything. Money's just money. But, I do think that we're being spiritually attacked by the enemy. And I think that the enemy does not want what it is I've been fighting for and what I've been called to fight for. And that's a country lifestyle, and that's to remove my family from the city and to go out and be more in nature and to build a home out on beautiful property, and that God made me work extremely hard for. But I do think the walls are trying to be torn down of what we have going on. So just prayers for me and my family. I'd deeply appreciate that. And if y'all need any prayers as well, please let me know in the community chat or drop it in the comments down below. And I'll be sure to pray for you right then and there as soon as I see it. Okay. And hey, listen, if you folks wouldn't mind um, showing some support over on the audio side of things, you can fast forward through an episode if you haven't listened to one over there yet, and you could be able to, or if you are able to, drop a 5-star review, oh so kindly, if you like the show, and drop a follow, hit that notification bell, all that kind of stuff. It helps the algorithms. But listen, I had a lot of fun this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all very much, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Okay. Have a good night. Stay blessed. Bye.